This is going to be a collection of photographs from my life.
This is the first part of my celebratory talk in the first online Not Theory Congress, organized February 1 to February 5, 2025, in honor of the 80th birthday of Lou Kauffman.
So we're going to go to the slideshow now. One moment. Adjusting. Excuse me. All right, there we go. So we begin in 1905 with my grandfather's store in Norfolk, New York, which later became a clothing store, but at the beginning was apparently a store that sold various things, a general store, and they called it a surprise store. And he had been a moving peddler of various things before he was successful enough to found the store. He and his brother they went from approximately Poland to New York City. And then it was suggested by relatives who had moved to Canada that northern New York would be a better place to do business than trying to compete in New York City. And so they went up into northern New York State. Norfolk, New York is not far from the Canadian border, and they began selling things, and eventually they both had stores. They both had clothing stores. But this is the earliest picture of any store that they had that I know in Norfolk, New York. And this is a later picture with my grandfather on the right. When I say the right, I mean pictorial right for you, and my father on the left. And now they have a clothing store, and this is probably in the 1940s, maybe earlier. This is an aerial view of the block in which our house lives, and that house still is there. And it's the house that I grew up in, and it's that square roof with four triangles on it at the corner of Morris and Bank Street, right there. And here's the house from around the time when I was a child, but the house looks very similar now. Um, and there's my mother and me. And here's my mother and father and me. And here I am with my father and my grandmother. And this is my grandmother and me on a tricycle, as you see. And here's my father and myself. He looks like he's all dressed up to go somewhere. Um, and here's my father and myself at a beach. Um, I don't know where this beach is. Here I am with my dog Taffy, and here I am as a young scientist working away. Um, that's the desk in my room up on the second floor of the house. Probably about 10 years old there, I would think. High school photograph. Um, Visit to Washington with my aunt. You can see her to the right of me, and a couple of historical figures. Um, and we managed to obtain time travel permission and got to witness the signing of the Declaration of Independence. I don't know if this time travel is available anymore in Washington, D.C. Um, Maybe not. Playing the recorder in the Norfolk House, probably from the same time. What time? Around 1980, this one would be, because you see a TRS-80 portable computer, the first portable computer, and one of the better ones. It would run for 10 hours on some C cells with friends at the establishment of Howard Palmer on the right and John Nichols in the middle. John Howard did many things in his life, and one of the things he did was set up a diner in Raymondville, New York, 4 miles from Norfolk, New York. Yours truly. Another picture of me. Not sure where that is. Looks like a hotel room or a dorm room. This was taken in the early 1980s when I was teaching at the University of Illinois Chicago, which whereof I taught from 1971 until 2017. And I taught a course in Boolean algebra, and for some reason the students felt that it would be a good idea to have a Kauffman dollar. And here you see one of the Kauffman dollars. Now we're at a conference in 1979 in Bangor, Wales. And Michel Boileau kindly um, showed us this photo, although I'm sure somewhere in my belongings I have this photo. There are many people that we all mutually know who are in this photo. I think it will be interesting to point at some of them. Um, so, starting over here on the right, that's Ronnie Brown, who taught in Bangor, Wales, and a topologist. Ray Licorice, um, um, Bob Edwards, Andrew Casson, Dale Rolfson, probably Hugh Morton, Rick Litherland, Bill Thurston. Um, we're walking along the back. You may recognize people that I don't. Bob Riley. Um, Continuing to wander here, that's Darrell Long. Um, Here's me. Here's Jose Montesinos. Um, uh, Peter Scott, um, um, Neil Stoltzfus, Michel Boileau himself, and other people whom you undoubtedly may recognize. For example, I believe this is Cesar de Sa, and the other woman should be Luisa Cortereras Caballero. And in fact, we have an email from Michel Boileau, who gave this to us when he gave us the photo. And I'm going to read his paragraph just so you can maybe locate a couple of more people whom you hadn't, whom I didn't mention. So he says, sitting in the front is Bruno Zimmerman, and behind him is Lou and Montesinos, and a little behind, Daryl Cooper and Francis Monahan, and on the right, Francois Laudenbach, Hamish Short, Peter Scott. On the extreme right side, Didier Hott, Neil Stoltzfus, Daniel Lines, Michel Boileau, and standing from right to left, Ray Licorice, Bob Edwards, and as I said, next to Ray um, is um, Ronnie Brown, Andrew Casson, Dale Rolfson, Cesar de Sa, Hugh Morton, Luisa Caballero, Rick Litherland, Bill Thurston, Bob Riley, and others. So a nice photograph from the past reminding us where we were then. And I'll go back to the slideshow. So I thought I would take a digression at this point about Ronnie Brown. Um, because Ronnie Brown had some artistic interests that were influential in our visions of mathematics. Here's Ronnie Brown more recently. Ronnie passed away in December 2024. Um, he was a topologist with a graphic artistic sense. This is some of his symbolism for doing higher homotopy theory. And he became very interested in the artist John Robinson, who did very topological sculptures. This is from an exhibit of Robinson, and you can see a beautiful link there over on the right. Um, and this is a Gordian knot of John Robinson's, and this is a Borromean rings of John Robinson's. This is about 12 feet in diameter. Um, And now this is not John Robinson, but I'm hopping over to the Newton Institute, which was founded in the early 90s. And this is the Conway knot. And I don't know who the artist is who made the Conway knot on the gate, but the gate, when it's closed, contains a Conway knot and a Kenosha Terasaka knot. Um, and this is the Conway knot. And also on the grounds are sculptures of John Robinson. And I'm sure that that connection between Ronnie Brown and John Robinson uh, was instrumental in having John's sculptures um, installed at the grounds of the Newton Institute. So there's the Borromean rings again in a remarkably reflective form. And you can see some of his sculptures backed up on the grounds there in front of the main building over there on the right. Around the same time, I'm visiting another artist friend, Joe Staley, in Fort Collins, Colorado, and he on the grounds of his place, and this is probably from the same time. Um, and here I am jumping around it, perhaps in time and space, at home in my apartment in Hyde Park. Um, and you see some of the same artifacts, a recorder and a TRS-80 computer and some model knots in the background there. Here I'm at a conference with a cybernetics conference with Vladimir Lefebvre and his wife. Vladimir is a Russian cyberneticist who emigrated to the United States and taught in California in a psychology department. And he did a very remarkable work about the mathematics of reflexivity of thought. And uh, he's worth reading. You might look him up. Here's another picture of him. Um, and this is Milton Singer, an anthropologist at the University of Chicago. Um, and this picture was taken by Diane Slaviero, and this was the day we got married in 1991. And this is sometime later, you know where, in Paris. And she seems to be measuring the Eiffel Tower. I'm not sure what the length of the Eiffel Tower is. This is Arthur Greenspoon, and I think we may be in Europe, maybe at a conference in Warwick um, in the 90s. Arthur Greenspoon uh, was an editor at the Math Reviews in Ann Arbor. This is 40th birthday picture. Diane on the left, Louis Augusta on the right, and I'm not sure who the other woman is. Picture of me and Louis Crane, picture of me and Massimo Ferri uh, when I visited him for the first time in Bologna, picture of me and Sosthenes Lins, probably when he visited us in Chicago in the early 90s. Another picture of Sosthenes. Um, Here you have David Finkelstein on the left, a physicist, and Eddie Oceans on the right, a psychologist, physicist, martial arts person. Um, he helped in visualizing the quaternions. He was very fond of the quaternions. He pointed out that the belt trick in the form of a hand that unwinds, an arm that unwinds itself, is part of a martial arts form that he knew called Bagua, Chinese martial arts form. Here is Randy Badio and his wife Ann, Diane, and myself in his apartment in Berkeley. We made a book of papers on quantum topology published in World Scientific, and we used the African design that you see on the right in the picture for the cover of the book. Another picture of me with Randy. Um, this is David Saltzman, a geographer in Chicago, an old friend, and myself. Picture of myself taken by Rachel, David's wife. Um, I think this also is taken by Rachel of Diane and myself. This is a picture of myself, Diane, and my mother. Um, we're in the 90s now, my mother and myself in the Norfolk house. Um, in front of the Norfolk house, a family gathering, um, aunts and cousins. Um, this is taken in front of the Fields Institute in Toronto, and the person on the right is Fred Cohen, homotopy theorist, and I don't know who the person on the left is. This is me and Dirac in Tallahassee. This is a picture from a conference organized um, by Zbigniew Ozgievich, who organized many conferences along the themes of that title of that conference, graphs, operads, logic, categories, widely spanning conferences. And you see some people you know. For example, you see myself in back of Sofia in the front row, and Ozgievich just to the right of Sofia, and you see Joseph Shatitsky two over from Ozgievich, and you see David Finkelstein all the way over on the right, and maybe you know some of the other people as well. Here's a photograph from another Ozgievich conference, I think an AMS meeting in this case, or Ozgievich type conference, because Hanna Makaruk and Robert Ozarek organized and continue to organize AMS meetings that are very close to the themes that Ozgievich was fond of. So in this picture, maybe I should point also, we have some people you know. This is Hilda, Ozgievich's wife. Here's Ozgievich, me, Valentina Harizovna, um, um, Sujoy Mukherjee, Joseph Shatitsky, um, Yurik Kotsik, Hanna Makaruk, and maybe that's Robert. I'm not quite sure. As I said, this one is more recent. It's from 2016. A departmental photograph, photograph from a conference. Um, Three characters, Greg Buck, DeWitt Sumners, and myself. You might wonder where, I wonder. Here I am at the blackboard talking about Kuperberg's theorem. Kuperberg proved that the minimal genus representation of a virtual knot um, is unique. So you can stabilize it to land on some least genus surface, and the embedding in that surface up to um, up to homeomorphisms of the surface is unique. Here's a picture from an Oberwolfach visit. These four people were together as one research group for a couple of weeks, and they are Sam Lamonaco on the left, me, and then Joseph, and then Robert Ozark. And this is another picture of myself and Sam Lamonaco taken in one of the rooms in Oberwolfach at that time. And we had many meetings in Oberwolfach. Here's one of myself and Vasily Manturov. We may have been among the organizers of a topology conference at that point. And now we jump to around 2018 when we were visiting in Akademgorodok in near Novosibirsk in Siberia. And this is in the top of the tower which was the administrative building and also the hotel where we lived. And this is an evocation of the pandemic. And this was taken at a conference in Munich around 2014. And here I seem to be conjuring uh, some French fries. And this is a self-portrait. And this one was taken by Jonathan Schneider um, on Halloween in 2014 when he was wearing that crown. And I said, I want to wear that crown. And he said, okay. And I put it on and he took this picture. That's Jonathan Schneider. And we're in the Greek islands in Chicago, where we often went after a seminar or to bring a seminar visitor to have some Greek food. We even invited Sofia to eat Greek food in Chicago there. And this is myself arguing about something in the living room of Joel Isaacson. Some of the conferences that we had with Joel Isaacson were held just in his living room, very nice hospitality. Doing a rope trick. Sophia and myself at Oberwalfach, um, and another one of us at Oberwalfach. These are the kind of pictures that the staff takes of people who are visiting, particularly if they are a research group. We were a research in pairs group, and they take a picture like this and they put it in their records. We were fortunate or unfortunate enough to have one of these pictures or one similar to it used for advertising the Research in Pairs program for a while. This is some of us again at Oberwalfach, and you see Dorothy Buck, you see Sophia, you see um, myself, and you see Diane, and you see Sophia's daughter looking shyly at us. And now we're back in Novosibirsk. This is the mouse statue that is outside the Biology Institute there, and they are celebrating the use of mice in studying DNA. And apparently, the statue has maybe a little more activity than the mice in the lab do. It seems to be knitting the DNA. And that deserves some investigation. So I put another mouse in for the sake of investigation on this slide. Here's another photo of the DNA mouse. And here's a picture taken by Andrei Vesnin of myself and Diane in front of the mouse. And this is a picture taken by Jim Freeman uh, in Iowa of myself and one of his colleagues at the college where he teaches. And this is a picture. Now we're jumping backward in time a little bit to around 1990 and the time when Von Jones received a Fields Medal in Kyoto. And there are some party pictures, and this is Adrian Oknianu. And here we have Tetsuji Miwa, David Evans, and Vladimir Turayev. And here we have Greg Cooperberg and Nikolai Reshetikin. Greg had probably just gotten his PhD at that point. Here's Von Jones. And here was a demonstration of wrestling. I don't know who the other wrestler is. You see him with Vaughn's hand on his shoulder. And here they are locked in. And this is probably later, but a nice picture of Hugh Morton, Vaughan Jones, Kathy O'Hara, and Fred Goodman. And where, I don't know. Here's a picture from Japan, probably around 2000 in a conference in Hiroshima. Um, and this is another picture from that time with within the center Murasugi and his wife. This is a picture from Chicago in the 90s of myself on the left, Dan Sandine, computer graphics maven, um, Vera Pless, mostly hidden, and her guest, John Conway. And John looks like he's showing us how to do one of those tricks involving your fingers, your nose, and your arms. And the fellow in the back is the proprietor of the coffee shop, then called Jamoke's. Here's a picture of Dan Sandine, myself, and Maxine on Maxwell Street in Chicago in the 90s. This is a picture of myself and Yumai Dang, who was a joint graduate student of myself and Dan Sandine. And we are at a conference, possibly Snowbird, Utah, um, um, on fractals. Her thesis was on fractals generated by quaternions, hypercomplex fractals. This is a picture of Diane and Lynn Claire Dennis, who has um, who has many geometric ideas and visions about polyhedra. And Diane made this model um, at Linclair's behest and description. And here's my desk in the old apartment in Chicago that looked up to the loop there in the background. Um, and this is a picture from 1998 of an AMPA conference dinner. AMPA stands for the Alternative Natural Philosophy Association. And one of its founders is Clive Kilmister, a physicist relativist from London. He's at the end of the table. And John Amson, who's next to Lynn Claire there, you see her. Um, and John is a Scottish mathematician. Uh, and here's Diane and I traveling across the United States by train sometime in the early 90s, carrying with us a transportable Macintosh computer in the case in the lower left corner. Now we're in Göttingen sometime in the 90s visiting Sofia, and these fellows are Gauss on the right and Weber on the left, and the statue commemorates their invention of the telegraph. Did you know that they invented the telegraph? They did. And in a nearby park, there is this bird um, which is probably a statue of a toucan, but to me it looks like a duck rabbit. A duck rabbit, a famous philosopher's drawing of an entity which can be seen either as a duck or as a rabbit. And so, which is it, a duck or a rabbit? It has no independent identity like that. Um, and here we have Sophia and Lou um, working in their usual fashion, apparently in Lupiac, France, in this case. But that scenario of us at the table with two computers occurred in lots of places. This is Sophia visiting in Chicago and saying hello to a statue that's in Hyde Park. This is Sophia in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Lou in Santa Fe, New Mexico. Some pictures of Lou in the winter in her coat. Some result of being in the winter without a coat. Um, this is probably around 1998 in China, visiting Molin Ge, or Ge Molin would be the right order, a physicist who was at the Nankai Institute and is now at the CERN Institute. Um, Here's a picture of myself and Frank Harari, Santa Cruz, New Mexico. I think he's introducing me. I'm going to give a talk. Um, picture of Frank. Um, Picture of Frank on the right, Diane, myself, and Claude Bourgeois, who is a postdoctoral student at the University of Illinois, got a degree in France. Um, Here's a picture of myself and Oleg Viro and Yulia Dobrotukina, his wife, myself with a manufactured background, myself in my home office. And now the last few pictures are from the visit that we made to the Institute for the Sustainability of Knotted Chiral Metamatter, organized by Ivan Smolyuk in Hiroshima this last fall. That's Nestle Han Gugumsu in the middle and Sophia on the right. We had a knot theory conference there at the beginning of December. And here's another picture of Diane, myself, and and Adriana Petru, one of the uh, participants in the conference. And this is Junko Takamoto, who is an outreach person at the Institute for graphics and visualization. And this is Diane, myself, and a girl whose name I don't know, who became friends with Diane, taken in the cafeteria at the university. And this is a Shinto shrine not far from the university campus that we wandered into when taking a walk, and were quite impressed by its quiet and depth. And leaving Japan, this is Fuji, Mount Fuji from the airplane. So that's the end of this slideshow of pictures.
What an exciting slideshow. Thank you, Lou. Thank you.
Thank you, Sofia.
So I will continue with my talk, and in this short remaining time, I will try to fit in remembrances of over 30 years. So do you see my screen still, and you hear me?
Yes, you're good.
Okay, so yes, I mean it is difficult to give loose whole curriculum vitae, but here we see some of his education, PhD in Princeton, BSc in MIT, and some professional honors, which is really many and very important. I will not read through all these. And here the list continues. We all know Lou's seminal works. So here is a devotion of his book on formal knot theory. May you enjoy the oof of the Alexander polynomial, something.
Mysteries. It says mysteries.
The mysteries. Thank you.
I apologize beforehand for that handwriting, which you're about to see in the next.
So thank you. I read it before, but now I'm a bit okay. So here is formal knot theory, Dover, and enjoy the clock tick. Knots and physics and so on. So let me start now my story. I first okay, my first work, my first research result when I was a student, PhD student at Warwick University, was that I found a new algorithm for turning an oriented knot diagram to a braid. So here's the Warwick Math Department with nice tea ladies. And in 1992, there was a Warwick meeting where Karen Uhlenbeck was an invited speaker, and the tea ladies were ill. I was serving the tea, and Karen Uhlenbeck asked me, we talked a bit mathematics, and she asked me if I would be interested in visiting University of Texas at Austin. Then, of course, I was, and then after also talking to Cameron Gordon, they invited me with a MacArthur fellowship. So at that time, when I arranged my visit to Texas, I combined this visit with participating in a conference at Kansas. This was organized by David Yetter and Louis Crane, the Quantum Topology Conference. So that was my first encounter, really, that I really talked to Lou. Before I had seen him in meetings, but I did not talk to him. So I approached him and I told him about my proof of the Alexander theorem. And then Lou asked me, so what is the difference of your proof from Alexander's original proof? And then I was totally gobsmacked. I could not answer. I knew it was different, but then I could not really answer that question. Then in July 93, later on, I met with David Yetter and Lou Kauffman at the Knots and Links meeting in Siegen in Germany. where David Yetter told me, why not organize a conference in Greece? So that came later, but then I go chronologically as much as I can. So I met Lou again in Swansea a few months later, 2 December, that's my birthday. Right after Vaughan's admission to the honorary degree of Doctor of Science from the University of Wales. And in fact, we attended a public talk by Vaughan where Vaughan was making smoke rings with a cigar in order to demonstrate not isotopy, isotopy of loops in space. Later on, here we see the Prince of Wales and the other people who received the Doctor of Science degree. In 1995, there was a meeting in Warsaw. Then at the time, I was really saturated with very hard calculations I was doing with cyclotomic algebras and trying to find trace functions and so on for the solid torus and construct Jones type invariants. So Joan advised me to see other directions and applications of knot theory just to distract myself a little bit. So I kept this in mind, and it will come later again in the presentation. Then we met with Lou in knots 96 in Waseda University in Tokyo. And then slowly, working in Göttingen as an assistant, I tried to co-organize the first knots in Hellas, which took place at the European Cultural Center of Delphi in 1998, following the suggestion of David Yetter. Of course, it was quite a lot of work, and here are many known colleagues. Lou was there too, of course. And we produced a nice volume of proceedings for this conference. And that was one of his first papers on the theory of virtual knots that we have in these proceedings. Then at the end of the conference, there were big airport strikes in Athens. And so I took Lou over to the airport, but we had like 5 hours wait. So we bought some coffee and sat on the floor and we started talking mathematics. Among the discussion, Lou was telling me about how the theory of rational knots applied in DNA recombination. So we started discussing a bit about rational knots. He told me that the proof of the classification of rational knots was using very deep topology, and biologists would like very much to see a simpler proof. So we said, why don't we try to prove to give a combinatorial proof of this classification. As I said, I was working in Göttingen at the time, so Lou visited me. I was also visited him in Chicago. And so we came up with our own proof of the classification of rational tangles to start with. That is the famous Conway theorem. And our succinct observation was this, what we called swing move, where we reduce the number of crossings and bring a rational tangle by induction to a canonical continued fraction form, which is an alternating form for the rational tangle. So that was our first result. And then we started thinking about rational knots and tried to prove combinatorially Schubert's theorem. That was quite a challenge. And we managed to give the first combinatorial proof of this theorem based on the tight conjecture, and especially by analyzing what happens with the palindrome cuts, which produce palindrome continued fractions. We made an exhaustive analysis. We explained the palindrome continued fractions, how they are related using matrices and products. And so we were able to give out these results. And here is a picture of a rational knot and all possible cuts that can happen to this rational knot in order to obtain a rational tangle. So these are our main, let's say, papers on these results. And January 1999, there is a meeting on mathematics and molecular biology in Santa Fe, where we were allowed to present a poster. So I made a poster bit by bit, little by little page. You see this huge poster with all these results fitting in. Here is the poster on the left. All these little pages, you see, which I still have in my office. And here is Lou defending our work, standing in front of the poster. So at the time of the Santa Fe meeting, I was applying for an associate professor position at the National Technical University of Athens and needed publications. So I approached Lou with my recent paper on the cyclotomic Hecke algebras of type B and how I had succeeded in constructing a universal Markov trace for giving the universal Home-Flipped polynomial for knots and links in the solid torus. And I showed him my manuscript and I asked him if it might be accepted in JKTR. Lou paged through the paper and said, this is the kind of paper we would like to see published in JKTR. So he accepted that I have this extra publication, which was quite a good asset. Then we met in Seoul, Korea, in Yongpyeong, in fact, in Knots 2000. Also at a list of meetings in the US, as you see, in Las Vegas, Irvine, Santa Fe, Dresden, then in Germany, in Potsdam a couple of times, in various meetings. Then we continued, inspired by the Tangle model of Ernst and Sumner for explaining site-specific processive recombination, I mean particular experiments, in fact. We started thinking about how to construct Hardan knots from the theory of rational tangles that we had understood very well. Our working example or starting point was the Gerritz Hardan knot. And we managed to provide infinite families of hard knots through the theorem that is stated at the bottom of the page. We just needed to have convergent fractions. Two fractions, tangle fractions should be convergent of each other, and then their numerator of the sum of S with the mirror image of T is a Hardan knot. So we produced some more results in this direction. We published also a couple of papers. And then we come to, here is the Mexico meeting that Lou also showed in his photos with Zbigniew Osiewicz being the organizer. We can see here Joseph Brzezicki. We can also see Johanna Kania Bartoszyńska. So in that meeting, I mention it because in that meeting, Zbigniew Osiewicz was really impressed by the symmetry and the fundamental power of my L-move approach to braid equivalences in three manifolds. So far, by then, I only applied this L-move approach to three manifolds. And the L, by the way, in L-move is given, of course, it stands for Lambropoulou, but this name was given by Colin Rourke. So we started discussing about applying this approach to virtual braid theory. And so we went into the theory of virtual braids. Lou explained to me how this works. Then we first studied the virtual braid group. We found a nice reduced presentation. We needed all this for continuing with closure and Alexander and analog of Markov theorem. And then we managed to find the L-move equivalence for virtual braids. So this is first an algorithm. So we produce this braiding chart for whenever we have in virtual diagrams, how to braid a virtual diagram. So this is the chart. And then Of course, we knew that the L moves should cross other strands, the new strands of an L move should cross the other strands of the braid virtually so as to be able to contract the closing loop. But then we found also virtual moves that create, L moves, sorry, that create a real crossing. Here, the basic created virtual crossing. So also with real crossings, but something was missing in the theory and we were very puzzled. This one is called, we called it threaded L moves, under or over threaded L moves. And this was missing and our proof was not coming complete. And we were puzzled about these moves in Messina when visiting Messina at some occasion that Lou was visiting me in Athens. So in Messina, we found this nice, here a vase that we realized that ancient Greeks knew already about the Temper-Lipsky relation and also about four-valent graphs and about virtual crossings you see down here. Then, apropos, in some other occasion, we visited National Archaeological Museum and we discovered this beautiful jewel in the Athens Museum, which is the Hercules bond, which in fact is the same bond that comes in, that has been found in some jewel in Pontica, Ukraine, 300 BC. Okay, so Seichi appreciated our result with the virtual L move equivalence for virtual braids and virtual knots. In this paper, we acknowledge a list of places and meetings where we worked on these matters, like Bentlevo, Frankfurt Airport, Oberwolfach, Cannes, Athens, Vancouver, Albuquerque, and so on. And this is something that we like to do in our papers. In some other paper, we say the itinerary of this paper is this and that and that and that. Okay, so that was very enjoyable period. Lou was in Athens for some other meeting, iconoclastic approaches to quantum gravity. We also met in Knots in Vancouver, where in fact that was an advanced school invited by Dale Rolfsen. Colin Adams was there, and I saw Colin performing for the first time, dressed like for selling land in a hyperbolic space. That was really impressive. Anyhow, so here is Knots in Washington in February 2005, where we organized with Joseph Zititsky and Yongu Rong a conference for celebrating Lou's 60th birthday. And then myself with Joseph Zititsky, we co-edited a 5-part special issue of the Journal of Knot Theory and then 1 volume and series of Knots and Everything dedicated to Lou's birthday. So you see also here lots of colleagues that we know. Let me continue. We met in other conferences too. One of the places that we have been often, apart from Chicago and Athens, is the Mathematisches Forschungsinstitut in Oberwolfach. Lou also showed this photo, and in fact, this photo of ours was used by the Institute for their leaflet, for their pamphlet for advertising research in pairs program. Here is the meeting that Luke organized, I think, with Vasily, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure. Yeah, I guess so. Lots of colleagues also here. And then we come to 2009, where we co-organized an advanced school and conference in the International Center for Theoretical Physics in Trieste. So, and also produced a nice volume of papers in the series of Knots and Everything. So here is the 4 co-organizers like Lou, myself, Slavik, and Joseph, and other participants like Ruth Lawrence, Renzo Rica, and so on. Lou was co-editor in many other volumes, of course, in knot theory and low-dimensional topology. We also met in Chile, where in fact we co-organized with Jesus Juyumaya, here an algebraist, my long collaborator, in Puson, Chile. And here is the beautiful mountain in Puson. Here we can see Johanna Kania-Bartoszyńska. Also, Luis Paris is there. Joseph is there. Sorry, Jesus is there to the right of, to the left of Lou. Here we see Joseph Zititsky and so on. Here is the research in pairs with Dorothy Bach, research in 3 with Dorothy Bach in Oberwolfach. And then we arrive at Swiss Notes in Lake Thun, 2011. Lou was an invited speaker in this event. I heard the theory of notoids from Turaev for the first time. At the time, I was working with my student Eleni Panagiotou on polymers, on the topological analysis of polymer chains seen as open chains in 3 space. Here is a beautiful photo at that conference with my student Ioannis Diamandis. Here is Von Jones, Lou Kauffman, myself, and Eleni Panagiotou. At the time, 2011, I succeeded in obtaining a big research grant, Thalis, and which lasted for a few years till 2015. So Lou was the visiting researcher of this grant. So we had him visiting quite a few times, like here, for example, teaching my children making knots and playing with ropes. And he was also, in that period, in 2014, he was one of the speakers in a very interesting journée that we organized to celebrate the Papa Fest. Christos Papakyriakopoulos, who taught in my university and in fact has left a bequest in my university. So Lou was one of the speakers of this beautiful event that was 100 years after Papakyriakopoulos' birth. And Lou brought to us these nice photos, or this photo of Papakyriakopoulos in Princeton, and here also in Princeton, where was his favorite armchair. Yes, from that, when that grant ended, we also produced a very nice volume of our dissemination conference, with Lou also co-organizing. Lou worked with my student Neslihan Kukumchu. They made this fantastic lifting of notoids in 3 space. And then my other student, Dimos Gundaroulis, took the idea and observed the connection to proteins. So here there is a long list of papers of our exciting journey in the theory of notoids and applications to proteins. Then in 2016, Lou, myself, and Radmila Sasdanovic, we co-edited a special issue of JKTR dedicated to the memory of our dear friend and colleague Slavik Jablan. So here is Slavik in his amazing constructions and exhibitions in Serbia, Hungary, and other places. Long before, even from my PhD years, I was inspired by the 3D Lotka Volterra system discovered by Nicolas Samardzija and Larry Greller when I heard the talk in Warwick. So that was really, it had inspired me so much that I wanted to find an opportunity to work on these things. And so many, many years later, I suggested to a student in Athens, Stathis Antoniou, if he would like to look at it during his diploma dissertation and then during his PhD thesis. And so we did, and we started enhancing and extending the definition of topological surgery in order to apply in modeling various physical or natural phenomena like the phallacosolitons, for example, of Robert Keane. And here are some figures we have produced with Stathis in our studies. And then Lou liked our work, joined in, and our work was really raised to another level. So we started contemplating, so first we tried to visualize three-dimensional surgery in a paper, and then we contemplated applications in cosmology. And here is another long list of papers related to these ideas and matters. And then we arrive in 2016, where we have Notes in Hellas. We organized that was a second Notes in Hellas in the International Olympic Academy in ancient Olympia, where Lou is co-organizer, and Colin Adams and Von Jones and Cameron Gordon, many people. That conference was an opportunity, as we say in the poster, in the announcements, to celebrate the achievements of Professor Kauffman, who reached the age of 70 in February 2015. So that is our celebration of Lou's 50th birthday. Here are some pictures of Lou delivering his talk, and some nice, the photographer captured some very vivid instances. For example, Lou talks to Von here, and they seem to have an argument, so we did not go closer. Lou seemed perplexed, even perhaps pissed off, you could say, but I'm joking, of course. We had math theatricals by Colin Adams, by scenarios of Colin Adams. So that was really, we had amazing evenings playing, acting in his theatricals and performing participants. So we see here in the last photo, Lou dropped dead along with Cameron Gordon. Here we are, the organizers, and it's also Ken Millet, Radmila Sasdanovic, Joseph Zititsky, the others I mentioned, and there is only Renzo Rica missing. Here is Lou surrounded by colleagues. And here at the gala dinner, we presented the kids of the conference, my kids, and here, this is the son of Paolo Bellinghieri, presented him with a big card signed by the participants of the conference. And here, these three guys received silver kotinos, as we say, olive branch, like the Olympic champions. Here is the proceedings with all of us co-editors of this meeting. And in that meeting in Notes in Hellas, I talked about some new invariant that we found after a long list of papers and works that started with Jesus Zougoumagias discovery of and construction of a Markov trace on Yokonuma Heke algebras related to framed notes and links, and then we tried to figure out, we produced some papers like here, we went to p-adic framed braids, where was that? Here, p-adic framed braids 1 and 2, and we tried to understand these invariants, and then eventually with Jesus, with Konstantinos Karvounis, a student of mine, with Mary Hlouveraki, a top-notch algebraist, we managed to decipher these invariants, at least for classical notes, and found a new invariant theta, which extends faithfully the Homfly polynomial. It is a true three-variable generalization. So this is a work that was appreciated by many topologists and knot theorists, like, for example, by Ray Licorice, who wrote an appendix in our paper. And then with Lou, we worked, Lou heard this talk, and we worked on establishing this invariant totally diagrammatically. And indeed, we succeeded from the scratch, and we also generalized in the same manner the Kauffman and the Dubrovny polynomials. whilst my student Dimos Gundaroulis, he took a specialization, he constructed a specialization, which is a new two-variable generalization of the Jones polynomial. So these invariants have the property that on knots, they are the same like the Homsky polynomial, but on links, they distinguish some pairs of links that the Homsky cannot distinguish. And the same with the other polynomials. Okay, the other generalizations. Here we are in Novosibirsk, 2019. Lou also showed a photo up in the cupola. Last year, exactly that very day, 5th of February, 3rd of February, we celebrated Lou's 79th birthday. He and Diane and me with my children, and we sang happy birthday. He asked us to sing it also in Greek, and we did from our part. In last summer, in July, we met in Knots in Palermo, where we co-organized, Lou, with Alessia Catabriga, Paolo Cavicchioli, and myself. We co-organized a special session on Knots in Palermo in the joint meeting of AMS with the Italian Mathematical Union. Here's a photo with Renzo Rica. And then we went to Bologna in August, continued this journey with Bologna. And here Lou gives a talk. And Lou told us that this was the first place that he ever gave a talk on the bracket polynomial, invited by Massimo Ferri back in 1985, that he showed us a photo before. In October, he visited me in Athens. So here is notes, rather cables in Athens. And here is presents, nice presents given to Lou from our rector. Here is Lou and Diane at my place. And yeah, so, and here we went for a trip to my village near Olympia, southwest of Greece in the Peloponnese, a very small village of like, I don't know, 200 people. Very warm, nice food, warm people, nice food. And Lou gave a rope trick, let's say, demonstration to the kids of that place. And he said that this was the best session of knot tricks he ever had. I hope he meant it, but that was really nice. So just to now finish, we just finished, completed with Lou editing a 3-part special issue of Journal of Knot Theory dedicated to Von Jones. So that was another joint thing that we did together. We met then in December, last December, as he said, in Hiroshima, but he did not say that he was the main invited speaker of that winter school. So let's see. Now, Lou is a logician. Lou is an inquirer of magic and topology. Lou is a cartoonist. Lou is a poet. So all I can say is that Lou is a living mathematical library. Lou is a very giving person. Lou is open to new ideas. Lou is non-judgmental, is unassuming. Lou is fair. Lou is a true human and a true friend, and it is great to work with him. So Lou, happy 80th birthday, and I wish that we'll keep working for many, many years to come, doing new things.